Free socks.
Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. We're good to go.
What is going on, snoozers? Another Monday means another episode of Snooze, where we bring you the top sports news stories from the past week. As always, I am your host, Whack, and by myself once again, but that's okay. It means I give you my takes, and then we're out of here. Pretty easy, short, simple show for the most part, right? As always, we got to start our show with the Sleeping On segment. So Sleeping On is a segment where I bring you something I feel you may have been sleeping on, whether it's entertainment related, music related, sports related, life related, whatever it may be. Something that you may want to check out if you're interested. And so this week, I'm going to be telling you about The Twilight Zone. That's right. An oldie but goodie come your way. Now, for those of you that don't know, Twilight Zone show from way back in the day kind of gives you a kind of suspenseful type episode, and usually the episode has kind of some type of deeper, whether philosophical or political type meaning behind it. You really gotta dig deep sometimes and see maybe what they're trying to tell us about maybe our society as a whole. And it'd been gone for a while, and then it came back last year with Jordan Peele as the new narrator. Season 2 just dropped on Thursday of last week. I went ahead and binged it this past weekend. 10 episodes ranging from about 30 to 45 minutes. Very good episodes, very good season. Good to have that back. So if you're a fan, if you've seen maybe Black Mirror, for instance, I think Black Mirror is one of those type of shows that is a Twilight Zone-esque in a sense. A funnier version of that would be Dimension 404 on Hulu. So if you're a fan of those type of shows and you haven't seen either season 1 or even season 2 of Twilight Zone, definitely go and check it out. It's on CBS All Access, so you will need a membership to watch it, but I think it's worth it because at the end of the day, CBS does have some other good shows to watch on CBS All Access, like Survivor. As you know, I'm a big Survivor fan, so definitely go and check it out if you have not yet. So moving on, we have 3 sports stories to cover this week. We got some MLB news. Again, I know, I feel like we need to be an MLB show at this point, but some good news on the MLB front. We also have some UIL, not news, but speculation and rumors, and then some QB updates in the NFL. So we'll start it off with the MLB, and that is that the MLB is back. After all the drama that's happened over the last few weeks that we've covered, the MLB, and they finally come to an agreement. And it's not so more of an agreement, but it's like they couldn't come to an agreement on certain things, so they came back to their original agreement, which was 60 games in 66 days. Well, I don't think it was originally 66 days, but because of when they finally came to the agreement, that's kind of how it had to work out. So they'll be playing 60 games in 66 days, which is, that's gonna be interesting to see in the regards of how's it going to be for player health and all that. But it is back. We have to watch and see how they handle COVID. Obviously, teams are going to be starting to report to training soon. Most likely training in their own facilities, and then once it gets closer to the end of July, when the season will start, they'll transfer over to the locations that we playing the games. They do have some guidelines, but it's really going to be interesting to see if, how this season plays. This season is going to be, a lot of people are saying, do we put an asterisk on this season, no matter who wins, but for a variety of reasons. Obviously number of games for one. There's obviously going to be, star player gets COVID, and so if a player gets COVID, by the way, I got some guidelines here. They had to have 2 negative COVID tests taken within 24 hours apart, as one step to coming back. No fever for 72 hours. And no respiratory symptoms as judged by a doctor or team medical staff. And then team physicians and a joint committee consisting of 2 doctors and 1 non-medical representative from the MLB and the MLB Players Association deem that the person does not pose a risk for spreading infection. So they have to meet those 3 requirements if they do get COVID in order to come back. there's a whole other list of things that, people are obviously going to have to pay attention to see if, just there's going to be a lot at play here. Let's just say that, to see how the MLB season plays out. And the question then becomes, well, why do we even need the season in the first place? And I think that boils down to, well, one, the players still want the season, right? So these athletes, obviously they still want to play, still want to crown a champion. Obviously the owners want it. They want some revenue. They've already lost a lot of revenue. They want to lose it all. And baseball is something that makes people just it gives them a little release, right? We do have some sports coming back finally, soccer being one of them, golf, but we miss sports, and so people want it, and so it's one of those, is it worth the risk? And for some people that answer is yes. Now of course this could completely go off the walls very quickly. If a whole team happens to catch it, are they going to be forfeiting the games? Are there, obviously there are going to be people, players on standby from double A, triple A type things where they can be signed on to the team, for a certain amount of money. So they do have some backups in that regard. But, if a whole team, let's say worst case scenario, gets coronavirus at once, whew, man, go ahead and count them out of the postseason, right? So, MLB is back. It is going to happen. Well, hopefully, we still have a month between now and when the MLB and the NBA, for that matter, come back. And with the rise in cases that we've seen so far, things could change between now and then. We could see just everything have to shut down for the safety of everyone in the country. So, right now, the MLB is back. Barring any setbacks from coronavirus. And then we'll see what happens. I know there was some talk of, I think that's going to be one of the talks, is does this season really get an asterisk when it's all said and done, no matter who ends up winning? And I don't think so. I think you gotta say whoever wins deserves it, because this is going to be a unique situation. We talk about 60 games in 66 days to begin with. You're going to probably see a lot more rotations in the roster, because especially with pitchers. So when it comes to pitchers, there's going to probably be the need for a couple more days rest for some pitchers. So, what kind of injuries do we see happen with these 60 days happening 60 games happening in such a short window? Maybe we can get this kind of underdog, kind of that a lot of people wouldn't have picked as a champion going into the season, and ends up winning it. Maybe my Texas Rangers finally don't choke and win the World Series, or finally don't choke and win the World Series. So, or maybe we get the Yankees just adding to their pennant race. And so, I think if, as a fan, I have some fans that are probably, it'll be interesting. I want to hear what they have to say. Like, is this season going to have an asterisk, or is it not? Because if your team isn't winning, I don't want to hear you say in the beginning of the season, "Oh, this is going to be an asterisk season," and then when your team wins, be like, "No, it counts. It counts." So, for me, no asterisk. Whoever wins deserves it. You're playing under a certain, everyone's playing under the same rules, right? So you can say, "Oh, it's not a full baseball season," and you're right. But at the end of the day, they're playing with what they're given. We're playing under situations no one really prepared for. It's not really their fault. Obviously, it isn't their fault that the coronavirus has happened. So, hey, whoever wins deserves it. I know a couple other things they're saying is that, obviously, designated hitter for both the AL and NL now. And then for extra innings, someone's automatically going to start on second base. Now, I don't think either of these would be long term, but unless I think especially the designated hitter one could be something that becomes long term, because it's already happening in one of the divisions. So why not just make it happen for both? Now I know why they're doing the start on second base for extra innings, because they're playing so many games in such a tight window. You don't want to be playing 14, 15, 16 inning games, not every night, obviously, but for especially when you have a quick turnaround and it's, like I said, everything's compressed. You want to get the games over with as quickly as you can. So I'm interested to see how that one works. I know there's been a couple other ideas thrown out there to try to make it, and people are saying, well, hey, you know what? I think I was watching Rich Eisen, for instance, and I love watching Rich. He's a great show. I know he was saying that, one of the ideas kind of, I think he came up with, or that someone's come up with, not for not for this season, but it could be interesting to implement into this season simply because of, it is such a unique season. Is, someone throw out the idea of, hey, the losing team, if a team's losing in the ninth inning, they can kind of put whichever three players they want up, so, for instance, if your top three batters go out in order in the eighth, they can bat again in the ninth. Don't necessarily know if I agree with that idea, but then again, I'm really not a baseball purist or a baseball, aficionado to begin with, so that might be something that might appeal to me, because I am not a baseball kind of guru, if you will. Now, there might be others, who are. They're going to jump on me and be like, what are you saying? What nonsense, what blasphemy are you talking about right now? And I completely get you. But I think, because, if they tried some crazy stuff with football and basketball, I might be the same way, right? So I get where you're coming from, but I don't think they'll do that one, obviously, but I like this, starting on second for extra innings, trying to get the game over with quickly. It's kind of like bringing down in basketball overtime, they start at 5 minutes, right? So, I'm interested to see how that plays out, and so baseball, like I said, baseball's back. Excited to have some sports back, even if it's not one that's one of my top sports. I'm still going to tune in and watch some of the games. And hopefully, MLB and NBA start on time and have their seasons, and hopefully that's a good sign of things to come for some of these other sports. We're going to move on now to our next topic of the podcast, which is some kind of UIL taps, kind of what if scenarios, and that scenario is what if we switched the spring and fall sports. I think I don't really know what the who kind of came up with this idea, or kind of why they're doing it this way. Maybe it's so that maybe football players get some more time, some in the weight room and stuff, because they really to get reps in or whatever, because they haven't gotten that, especially with a lot of these summer workout programs shutting down. But doesn't that same argument then apply to these other sports that would be moved from spring to fall, especially? Yes. It's one of those weird. Now I understand football is king in Texas, and so it would make sense that you would want to get the most out of football. And again, I don't think UIL is even really considered. Now, UIL is not considering all contingencies, but they're going to have contingencies in place, right? So they're really thinking, okay, well, what if sports shut down again? What are we going to do? So maybe this one is on their list of possible contingencies, but they're really not considering it. I mean, I have found this quote here from the Texas High School Baseball Coaches Association. And they said that the executive director, Rex Sanders, and UIL representative, John Carter, have been in direct conversation with Dr. Susan Elza, who is the UIL head honcho there, and members of the UIL about the recent rumors of changing fall and spring sports. Please rest assured that this is strictly a rumor and are not part of discussions taking place within the UIL. We all need to continue to follow COVID protocols and help slow down the spread. We will get through this time together. Like we tell our athletes, we must trust the process and know that UIL will do what's best for our kids. So that's kind of what, they put out. And so, like I said, UIL not even considering it right now, but it is interesting to consider. Why would you move the fall and spring sports? Now, one of my first thoughts when I heard this is, what if spring sports, or not, what happens if spring sports got moved to the fall, and then the fall sports got shut down? Now you would have athletes that, miss not only one season, but two. Under this proposal, the person that kind of came up with this proposal said if that were to happen, those sports would be moved back to the spring. So you would still potentially get, a baseball season, a track season, a tennis season, or whatever. So my question is then, why move in the first place? I really haven't found anything myself as far as what the reasoning would be for moving it, besides just, football being king, and we don't want the. Oh, here we go. I found something right now. It says rationale behind the proposal. It says, let me take a little look here. So basically, boils down to is that because football is such a kind of close contact sport, and volleyball being the most popular kind of sport among women, It's like, and being indoors, you want to try and avoid that. And so with some of these other sports being less, especially, baseball and just to some extent track being less of contact sports, and being outdoors, let's put those out there first. And I guess that rationale does make sense, but I think you're opening up a whole bunch of logistical nightmares for for a lot of the ADs and UIL and TAPs themselves to, lock in venues for different dates that, for different sports that they're not used to. So you do have that kind of nightmare. If you're talking about, I think moving sports around, does that affect schools and their budgets, even though the sports at the same time are still being played? I think there's a lot of logistical things that might go into that. Now, of course, the people that are coming with these proposals are some coaches and stuff, so they are going to know more about this than me. I just don't think it's worth it in the long run. I think what UIL is trying to do, which is smart, is keep things the way it is. And we'll go and we'll cross that bridge when it gets there. Like I said, they have contingencies in place, so I'm not concerned with UIL doing this yet. I think will probably be one of their kind of last scenarios to implement. And, what would be difficult is saying let's move all sports to spring. I think that might be something to consider. But then again, you have multi-sport athletes, and so how does that open things up? My main issue with playing football in the spring, of course, would be what does that do for these athletes that then go and play D1 sports, sports at the D1 level for football, let's say in the fall. Let's say, football plays in the fall in 2021, right? So how is that going to affect their health? You're going to have a very limited turnaround between football ending at the high school level and then starting for them at the college level. So, and then, hey, injuries happen in football now. So if you get an injury, let's say in December when football is wrapping up compared to, May, June when it would be wrapping up, less time to recover, for some of these high-end athletes. And so I think the potential hazards outweigh the potential benefits. So I personally don't like this idea. I would like it only as a kind of a last resort type of thing. We'll see what happens. So that is that. A little crazy kind of situation, kind of proposal that's been proposed. So we'll see what UIO inevitably decides to do. Right now, I think their goal is to keep things the way they are, and hopefully by the time football does roll around at the high school level, COVID has decreased more than it has, because it really hasn't really decreased at all right now. In fact, it's increasing. So let's hope we can stay inside and wear your mask when you go out, people. Moving on to our final topic of the show, and that is some QB news in the NFL. Now, the first QB news, I've got two QBs I want to talk about. The first one happened last week. I had some other things I want to talk about, and he hadn't put pen to paper as I was recording, so I didn't want to talk about it. And that's Dak Prescott signing his franchise tag. Now, what this means is the Cowboys do have till July 15th. Well, the Cowboys and Dak have till July 15th to sign and agree to a contract, a long-term contract. But you know what? I think it was smart for Dak. I mean, I didn't think he would be the type to sit out anyways. So, and I think the biggest thing is that I want him and the Cowboys to come to an agreement. Because I think if they come to some type of agreement, I think it's going to open up some cap room where then they'll be able to sign maybe someone like a Davian Clowney. I know a lot of Cowboys fans, including myself, would love to see Jamal Adams in a Cowboys uniform next season. I don't think that's going to happen. Well, it really depends, right? So I've seen some talk out there that the Jets would want like Leo Collins as part of the trade, and if that's their asking price for Jamal specifically for the Cowboys, that is a hard no for me. I mean, I would love Jamal Adams in a Cowboys uniform, but not at that cost. I mean, we already had Travis Frederick retire this past season because of the Gilbar that he had. Or I think that's what it was called, but because of his condition that he had, he came back and played, but he said he wasn't, and hey, it's tough to come back from that, and then you got to think about family and long-term stuff, and so I respect his decision to step away. You don't know how much longer Tyrone Smith is going to be in a Cowboys uniform. He's been around almost a decade already, and he's been a staple on that at the left tackle, but he's always had these the last few years had these dingers here and there, and so when you have La'el Collins that you just signed, to a deal, you don't want to lose him. When you've already lost a center, you're gonna be losing the left tackle soon. You want him to be there. He's a great offensive lineman. And I don't think it's worth it as part of the trade. Now, there's the whole first and third that, I think that was one of the earlier talks as far as, that's what we should give to the Jets, and that's kind of what they were starting asking with, and I would be okay with that. Jamal Adams is still a young player, and right at the not even reaching the peak of his career yet, so that would be worth it. I know a lot of people aren't for giving up a first round pick, but I think in this case it would be well worth it to get Jamal Adams and get him locked up, especially because I think he would take he wouldn't take a far less deal, but he would take a lesser deal being coming to Dallas. One, tax free. Heck yeah, and two, he's on record as being a Cowboys fan, so he grew up in that area. So, hey, if we can get it, if we can make it work for something that's not giving up a player like La'el Collins, pull that trigger. If not, hey, you know what? We'll make do the best we can. But back to Dak. I think what the Cowboys need to do is now they want him for 5 years. Dak wants 4 years. I get why, but here's the thing. You want to lock him up before Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson sign their contracts, because if you don't, his asking price is going to go up. Now it's probably not going to surpass Patrick Mahomes' level, because let's be honest, Patrick Mahomes, arguably best quarterback in the NFL, and I love Dak, and I would probably argue he's a top 10 quarterback. And I would be open to that debate. If people want to disagree with me, that's fine, but he's a great quarterback. Hasn't had a losing season yet, and I think a lot of the struggles when you look at the Cowboys has come down to coaching over the last few years. Some of their coaching hasn't been consistent, and I think putting in Mike McCarthy, bringing him in, I think we're going to open so many doors with this team with Mike McCarthy at the helm, and I think you're just going to see Dak just flourish in the Mike McCarthy system. So if the one hiccup is 4 years versus 5 years, just lock him up for 4 years, especially before, like I said, before Patrick and Deshaun sign their contracts, because they will, and they'll be paid accordingly to the probably to the top. Patrick Mahomes, like I said, arguably best quarterback. Deshaun Watson can be arguably top 5 for sure. What he does with the Texans and Bill O'Brien and that nightmare, what he's able to do in that system, it's that man is something else. Deshaun Watson, he is a star for sure. So you want to get Dak locked up if you're a Cowboys. For me as a Cowboys fan, I want to get him locked up before the price goes up. And then once we do that, man, whew, I mean, you're talking about Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and then CeeDee Lamb, if he reaches the potential that everyone thinks he's going to be, the offense is going to be insane. Especially because I think McCarthy is going to utilize Dak's legs more than Garrett ever did. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited that Dak signed, and I hope that they do work out a long-term contract before that July 15th deadline. The other quarterback I want to talk about is Cam Newton. For the longest time, no team, I don't know why, didn't want to take him. I mean, he is an MVP player. He's not too far removed from his MVP season. And if you look at it, the main concern with him is probably his injuries. The last few years, he hasn't declined because of who he is as a player. He's declined because of his injuries. I think a lot of that has to do with the Panther system at the time. You have to play around your quarterback. I don't think they played around. They didn't design the plays around him well. So I'm excited for Cam going to. Oh, I don't think I said this. He's going to New England, right? New England wins again. How about that? So I'm excited for Cam to New England. I think it's a steal for New England. They lose an MVP quarterback and they get another MVP quarterback. Now, Tom Brady, best quarterback ever, but they're still getting an MVP caliber quarterback. I think he's the starter week 1. No offense to Stidham, but you can if you go watch the tape, Cam is a great quarterback, and I think given the right system and the right coach, which I think Bill Belichick can be, I think this is going to be it's just a steal. And New England got him for the vet minimum, if I'm not mistaken. He does have an incentive laden contract, so he can get paid if he meets those incentives, which I think he can easily do. Yeah, I mean, just when you think, Dolphins fans and Bills fans and Jets fans, just when you think, like, finally, bye-bye Brady, now it's our time now. And along comes Cam Newton to the Patriots, and now you're just like, well, great, just great. So, Cam's on the Patriots now, and I think he's going to do some things. I don't think it's going to be a down year for the Patriots now, unfortunately, for all you other AFC East teams, and we'll see what he does. I'm excited to see Cam in that Patriots gear. Now I'm not going to be obviously rooting for him to win at all because I got to root for my Cowboys, but Patriots always just do this kind of stuff, right? We're expecting it. That's what we expect from them from now. So that is it for our show this week. I will say before I go, I mean, it's just short things, so I didn't want to put it as a segment. NBA has come out with their schedule for all the teams fighting for the championship. I think some Pelican conspiracy theorists are going to be talking because if you look at their schedule, very favorable. I know a lot of people are saying that they wanted the Lakers versus Pelicans in the first round, and maybe look at the Pelican schedule. Very favorable for them. But that is our show. You can follow me, as always, on Facebook, Joshua Waslosik. I've spelled down for you because my last name is hard to spell. And then you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at JoshWack13. I post about the show on Facebook and Twitter. And I post about me and my fiance and just my nerdy stuff on Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, S-News. And again, every Monday we'll be back with some more sports news stories. If you want to see me talk about something, let me know. I might try and have a friend of mine on. He does a podcast, 300 Pod, and I might try and get him on and talk about some golf, especially with some COVID stuff going on there, it seems, and just what it feels like to have golf back. But until then, I'm Wack. I'm your host, and don't forget to keep hitting that snooze button, guys. Peace out.